The PGA rolls along to the Honda Classic, and the big boys take the week off, so it's the second-tier players competing for this weekend's tournament, and we can win $50,000. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Jason Mattis with Winning Bets. Thanks for hanging out with me on this episode. That's right, this is our weekly golf show because it's over on the NBC Sports Predictor app where we can win $50,000 if we can correctly predict this weekend's golf tournament. If nobody can do it, they'll still give away a guaranteed $1,000 prize to the group of people that can get the most points. The way you do this is they give you several head-to-head matchups. You got to pick the golfer that have the better score over the course of the tournament. Then you got to give them a winner and a win margin. This tournament this weekend follows, the same suit that you kind of see with majors. I know last weekend wasn't a major with the Players' Championship, but the way it's treated, from the players, from the media, and also just the prestige of that Players' Championship, it falls in line with the trends of the majors, and that's basically being that the big boys don't play the week after a major. They go ahead and sit that week out, and then you get the best of pretty much the second-tier players, and that's what you get. If you're not a golf fan and you go ahead and look at these head-to-head matchups, it's a bunch of slappies going up against each other. So yeah, we'll break it down, of course. Sung Jae Im, he's a defending champion. He got a -6 last year in the tournament, so he was able to take it home. And much like last week, we're going to rely more on recent form. I know we didn't have one of the greatest of all scores last week, but I think that did, overall better for us. I mean, NBC, when they put these head-to-head matchups together, they're putting two guys pinned up against each other that are pretty even in stats, or, some does one thing better and the other does another thing better. You're not getting any landslides. You're not getting any, softball toss-ups to, get an easy victory here. So we'll rely more on recent trends overall on the tour, and then we'll also look at their history at this golf course and see what they did. So that being said, let's jump on into it and see how we'll do. First matchup here is probably definitely the best one I think of the whole tournament. It's Daniel Berger versus Sung Jae Im. Daniel Berger was tied for 9th last week at the Players' Championship. He was tied for 31st. They're tied for 35th at the WGC. 4th last year at the Honda. 36th and 29th in the years before that. If we look at Im here, tied for 17th at the Players, tied for 28th at the WGC. He was 5th last year. Again, he's the defending champion here at this tournament. And the year before that, he got 51st. I'm going to go ahead and say Daniel Berger, though. Look, it's hard to, go back-to-back, obviously. Not that he has to go back-to-back to win this head-to-head, but just obviously hard to do something like that. Daniel Berger, tied for 9th last week at the Players' Championship. He's really been good throughout most of the season. So I'll go ahead and take Daniel Berger. The next one we got here is Ricky Fowler versus Phil Mickelson, two guys that you, of course, already know. Ricky Fowler was cut last week at the Players. He was cut last year at the Honda Championship, and he's been cut at the Honda Championship of 2 of the last 3 years. For Phil Mickelson, he was tied for 35th last week at the Players, had a nice showing there. He had 3 rounds at -1, and then he had 1 round at even. So just a good, solid, didn't do anything spectacular, but also didn't make any mistakes. Just a good showing for him at that Players' Championship. He hasn't played, though, here at the Honda Championship since 2016. I'll go ahead and take Phil Mickelson, though. Obviously, he was better last week. He, didn't get cut like Ricky Fowler did, and he just seems to be playing good golf right now. I mean, your golf game can change quickly, as we know. We've seen on this, NBC Sports Predictor app, but I like how Phil Mickelson played last week, so go ahead and give me him. For the next one, let's do Ian Poulter versus Lee Westwood. For Poulter, he was cut at the Players last week. He had a 5-over in the first round, and then he had a 1-over in the second round. So wasn't really all that bad, even though he did get cut. It was really, just a bad first round. Here at the Honda Championship, he got 27th last year. If we look at Lee Westwood, he was 2nd at the Players and 2nd at Arnold, and he was 4th last year at the Honda. This one, see now we're going on form. This one's pretty easy. It's Lee Westwood all day. Next, let's look at Adam Scott versus Russell Henley. Look, for Scott, tied for 48th at the Players, tied for 54th at the WGC. He was cut at 2019 at Honda, did not play last year here in this championship. For Henley, he was cut at the Players. Both of those rounds were over par, so not a good showing for him. And he was 8th last year at the Honda. I'll go ahead and say Scott, though. He's got the better form coming in this tournament, so give me Adam Scott. For the next one here, we got Luke Donald versus Graham McDowell. Listen to these guys. For Luke Donald, he hasn't played since February 14th. He's been cut in his last 6 tournaments. Yeah, and he got 11th last year at the Honda. For McDowell, not a whole lot better. He's only played in 2 tournaments in 2021, and he's been cut in both. 82nd in the Honda 2019. I'll go ahead and say Graham McDonald, but it may just come down to who doesn't get cut or who, gets cut the least. I mean, those guys are obviously having an absolutely terrible 2021 campaign. All right, for the next one here, we got Taylor Gooch versus Doug Gim. For Gooch, he was tied for 5th last week at the Players, tied for 44th at the Arnold before that. He's got a 38th and a 20th place finish here at the Honda in the last 2 seasons. For Gim, tied for 29th at the Players, tied for 36th there at Arnold. He was cut last year at the Honda. He was cut last year here at the Honda Championship. I'll go ahead and say Taylor Gooch. I think he's going to be able to get it done, so go ahead and give me Taylor Gooch. For this next one here, we got Joaquin Niemann versus Shane Lowry. Look, for Niemann, tied for 29th at the Players last week, tied for 28th at the WGC. He was cut last year at the Honda. For Lowry, a little bit better, though. He was 8th at the Players and 21st at Honda. Go ahead and give me Shane Lowry. Can never go wrong with a Lowry. For the next one we got Steve Stricker versus Padraig Harrington. For Stricker, he was cut last week at the Players, and he hasn't played at the Honda since 2017. He did get 5th, but I don't think that's really relevant. So, he hasn't played since 2007 here. For Harrington, tied for 31st at the Arnold. He's been cut in his last 3 events here at the Honda. He did not play in 2019, so that dates back to 2017. I'll go ahead and say Padraig Harrington. At least he wasn't cut in his most recent PGA Tour event. For the next one here, we got Keegan Bradley versus Martin Keimer. For Bradley, tied for 29th at the Players, tied for 10th at the Arnold. He was cut last year at the Honda, and he's been cut at 4 of the last 5 times here at the Honda. For Keimer, no tournaments. He hasn't played any tournaments since September of 2020. He got 67th at the Honda. I mean, obviously, you have nothing to go off of this guy. He hasn't played since September, so I'll go ahead and say Keegan Bradley. The last head-to-head matchup we got here is Hudson Swafford versus Keith Mitchell. For Swafford, he's been cut his last 4 tournaments. 21st at the Honda last year. For Mitchell, not a lot better. Cut at the Players, cut at the Arnold, cut in 4 of the last 5 tournaments. At the Honda since 2008, he's gone cut, first, cut. So that means he's due for another good showing. If we're going every other year, give me Keith Mitchell to win the tournament over him. And for a winner, I'm going to go with Daniel Berger. Look, I mean, it's the only guy really playing in this tournament that has a good amount of name recognition in terms of not only name recognition, but also playing really good. I mean, Daniel Berger has had a good 2021 season. So, yeah, I like Daniel Berger to go ahead and win. I think he'll do it at -9. He'll finish with a -9 this week. And so that's all we'll do it this week, guys. That's how we'll compete for the chance to win $50,000 on the NBC Sports Predictor app. Go ahead and hit that like button. And, of course, I always wish you good luck on your picks. Thanks for watching this episode of Winning Bets. I'm Jason Mattis. I'll see you again when we are celebrating the wins and making more winning bets. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more winning bets.